Hey everybody, welcome. Good morning. Happy Sunday or whenever it is that you are watching this. It's Sunday right now. And it's raining. It's disgusting outside. It is awful. And also, it's a difficult morning, I know, for many of you because we lost an hour of sleep last night. It's that one time of year. Why are we still doing this? Why is this still happening? Why are we still changing our clocks back and forth multiple times per year? Just super bizarre, but if you're watching this, you survived it. So congratulations. We want to thank you for joining us, those of you on Facebook and YouTube. I imagine there's a few more of you today than normal because you didn't want to risk being an hour late to church today. So you stayed home, didn't you? That's what happened. Now I know exactly what happened. That's right. Well, we're glad that you're hanging out with us today. If you this is your first time kind of just tuning in with us and you're getting to know us a little bit and you want to find out more about us, you can do that on our website at findpathways.com. And we explain a little bit about ourselves on there if you want to just find out a little bit on paper or screen, I guess, as it were, who we are. You can check us out there. We like to describe ourselves with two words generally. Cautious and curious. We're a cautious bunch, and maybe like you, you're kind of like, well, I like this Jesus guy, but religion seems to have gone off the tracks a little bit, and sometimes the things that we see in religion doesn't match up with what we find attractive in Jesus. And so many of us have found ourselves in similar situations. We've made commitments to follow Jesus, but we find ourselves being a little bit cautious about organized religion. And so you're at home if you kind of have those cautions as well. Also, we're curious. We're just a group that likes to ask a lot of questions. And many times in religious environments, it seems like it's not okay to ask questions. It's not okay to rethink things. And we're a group that thinks that that is actually a really healthy part of faith, is continuing to ask questions. And there's many of us who have changed our mind on things over the years. And we actually think that's really sort of called faith. That's called growth, right? If you believe the same things today you did 20 years ago, then you probably haven't grown very much. And so we think that asking questions and rethinking things is actually a really healthy thing to do. And so that's a little bit about who we are. Now, what we're going to do this morning here, just a little housekeeping as we go along, and you've heard me say this many times. We're going to do some singing now. And I don't know if you're going to sing along or not, but Billy, our worship leader, is going to lead us. And if you want to sing along, you can. If you want to just pray, you can do that, or just kind of bop around to the music is fine. The idea behind this is just to kind of like wake us up a little bit, especially on a weekend where we missed an hour of sleep. You may not just like wake up thinking like, hey, I'm just ready to praise God today. It might take a little bit of easing your toes in the water, right, to kind of begin to waking up to the fact that God is with you in the room. And so we want to do that this morning. We'll sing a little bit. We're going to do two songs. In between, we normally have kind of a reflective video. Today we have a video that is another prayer, another form of a prayer for the people of Ukraine. And that war continues to go on, that invasion. And there's so many more civilians who have been wounded and killed since even we met last week. And we don't want to just let that slip from our memory. We want to continue to be praying over that situation, praying for peace. And so we'll have a video in between our two songs that becomes a good prayer video that if you want to pray along with it, it'll be a way for you to lift up the people of Ukraine today. And then obviously when we get done with that, I'll come back and we're going to continue in our series on Ruth here. And then at the end, we'll have a time for communion. And so if you want to right now go around your house, scrounge through the kitchen, open up the cupboard, whatever you want to do, maybe find some bread or some crackers that'll represent Jesus' body, and then find something to drink, maybe some juice or some leftover wine to use as the cup. At the end of our time, we'll give you an opportunity to take those elements and remember the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus like we do in person every week. So that's where we're going today. Billy's going to lead us in some singing here, and that prayer will be sandwiched in between the two songs, and then we'll get into our message today. Okay, let's get to it. Billy, lead us away.
Song of all songs is the song we sing. Song of our sounds have a symphony. Songs of love soul. Songs of praise, you're the one we adore. We're gonna sing out aloud as heaven is us and comes down in this day that we live. We'll show our love with such awesome praise. You are great and greatly to be praised in all the earth, in all the earth. You are strong and powerful in all the world, in all the heavens. You are God, so wonderful. All of heaven knows your name. You are great and greatly to be praised. Sing song of all. Song of all songs is the song we sing. Sound of all sounds, heaven's symphony. Songs of love to you from us all. Songs of praise, you're the one we adore. We're gonna sing out aloud as heaven is us and comes down in this day that we live. We'll show our love with such awesome praise. You are great and greatly to be praised in all the earth, in all the earth. You are strong and powerful in all the world, in all the heavens. You are God, so wonderful. All of heaven knows your name. You are great and greatly to be praised. Sing that again. You are great and greatly to be praised in all the earth, in all the earth. You are strong and powerful in all the world, in all the heavens. You are God, so wonderful. All of heaven knows your name. You are great seated above, enthroned in the Father's love, destined to die, poured out for all mankind. God's only Son, perfect and spotless one. He never sinned, but suffered as if he did. All authority, every victory is yours. All authority, every victory is yours. Savior, worthy of honor and glory, worthy of all our praise. For you overcame. Jesus, awesome in power forever. Awesome and great is your name. You overcame. Yeah. Oh, you overcame. Yeah. Power in hand, speaking the Father's plan. Yeah, sending a sound, lighting this broken land. All authority, every victory is yours. All authority, yeah, every victory is yours. Yeah, it's yours. Savior, worthy of honor and glory, worthy of all our praise. You overcame. Jesus, awesome in power forever. Awesome and great is your name. You overcame. And we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome. We will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome, and we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Everyone overcome. Yes, we will overcome. One last time, sing it out. Savior, worthy of honor and glory, worthy of all our praise. You overcame, Jesus, Jesus, awesome in power forever, awesome and great is your name. You overcame.
Amen. Thanks, Billy. Hey, let's get going on into Ruth here today. It's an exciting short story, and we've been reading this for the last few weeks, and I just love good literature, don't you? I like reading a really good story. I've got a whole bunch of books at my house, and when the kids were young, early on, I got them into reading because reading is just so fun, and I like reading nonfiction stuff. Of course I do, for things like we're talking about today. I have a whole library full of nonfiction things talking about the Bible, and I like those stories, but I like reading fictional stories too because they're just so fun. You get to meet characters you'd never meet in real life and go on adventures you don't have time to go on or don't have the means to go on in real life. And so I've always liked just kind of fun stories. And today our story is just so fun. I remember when I was in 10th grade English class, we did like a English literature class and we were studying short stories. And one of the weirdest, most memorable short stories that we read at that time was called A Good Man is Hard to Find by an author named Flannery O'Connor. And Flannery O'Connor is just one of the most famous American novelists and short story and essay writers. I mean, she's written something like 32 different stories. But we would read some of these short stories and then we would analyze the story and like the plots and the characters and talk about what they really meant. And we read this classic story by Flannery O'Connor called A Good Man is Hard to Find. Anybody else have to read that in school? I mean, we just had to read this one. It was on the list, and so we read it. And it's a really bizarre story. If you had to read it in English class in high school as well, you might remember this was a very bizarre story. It's a story about a family who sets off on a vacation together and ends up being murdered, all of them, by a serial killer called the Misfit. And I remember reading this story and going, what in the world was this all about? And we got to class, we had to read it on our own, and then we'd show up to class, and I remember our teacher was like, okay, so what did you guys all get out of this story? And we're like, I don't know, be more careful when you go on a road trip, not to be killed by a serial killer, It's just kind of this weird, bizarre story. But then, as a class, we started unpacking this story a little bit and what maybe some of the author, Flannery O'Connor's, ideas were in writing this story. And what we discovered as a bunch of sophomores in high school is that this was actually a pretty creative story that was exploring ideas about good and evil and who is truly good and who is truly evil. Because as you read the story, you discover that the killer, the serial killer, the Misfit, ends up being the most honest person in the story. Now, he's still a bad guy. He's not a good guy, but he's just honest about it. He just lets you know, no, I am a bad guy. I'm not very good. And the family that gets killed, though, they end up being exposed as sort of unkind, uncharitable, not really good people. On the surface, they look like they're good people, but they're really not. They're kind of faking it. And in a typical Flannery O'Connor story, this short story represents the reader with this weird, strange phenomena where integrity and honesty are found in the immoral person, the bad person, and where hypocrisy and moral corruption is found in the people who on the outside appear to be good. It kind of flips everything upside down, and a lot of her stories liked to do that. It's a story that's not just a story. It's a story that's trying to open our eyes and our ears to what truly makes someone good. It's a story that tries to get us to ask some questions, to think, to examine ourselves. And good stories do that. They make us ask questions of ourselves. And our story today is going to do exactly that. Now, this story we've been reading has been doing that quite a bit already, I think, but we're going to even get more of that today, where it is going to read us as much as we read it. We're doing this series called Undocumented Love, Crossing Borders in the Book of Ruth, and we are going through the short story in the Old Testament called Ruth. And it's a story about a family that has been displaced by famine. It's a family that has then been ruined by the tragic deaths of all the males in the family. And so the mother-in-law, Naomi, and the daughter-in-law, Ruth, they end up returning home to Israel. But when they get there, they are without any males to protect them or to own property or anything like that. And so they're left poor and vulnerable. And the story is trying to get us to ask questions about justice and goodness and love and ultimately responsibility. What does it truly mean to love like God loves? And how do God's people respond to those who are in need? Now, we've already asked a lot of really good questions out of this book, but last week we saw that there were two big laws. You remember that? Two big laws that actually were great laws, but did not apply at all to Naomi and Ruth's situation. The laws of the lever and the goel. You remember those? If you're here last week, if you missed that, there's a huge insight. I'd encourage you to go back last week and kind of learn all about the lever and the goel, because I think you'll find in there a nugget of something that you may not have ever noticed before. But we discussed these two laws, and just very briefly, the law of the lever said that it was the brother, if a man died, it was his brother's responsibility to marry his widow and get her pregnant with an heir if he died without an heir, so that the dead man's family line could continue, okay? So in case there's no male heirs in a patriarchal society, everything has to be inherited through the males. So if a man dies and he doesn't have a male heir, it's his brother's responsibility to step in, produce an heir, so that his family line can continue on. And it's a great law to help people in a bad situation, to help families that are about ready to go out of existence. But it doesn't apply to Naomi and Ruth, because there are no brothers left alive in the story. The dad has died, one son died, and also the other son died. There are no levers to take care of them. Well, the other law that we looked at, though, was the law of the goel. And the goel was the kinsman redeemer. And this was the nearest relative, and it was the nearest relative's responsibility to buy land from his relative if they were in some sort of financial trouble and needed to sell off their land in order to pay for their debts or to survive or whatever else. And so rather than let your relative sell the land to someone outside of the family, it was this nearest relative's job and responsibility to buy the land from you should you need to sell it. And there was a price that was agreed upon in the law for how much you were to pay. And then this new relative would keep that land in his possession until the 50th year, which was called the year of Jubilee. And in that 50th year, that land was actually to be returned free of charge to the original owner. And again, this is a pretty cool law to help families who were in distress. But as we discovered last week, it also doesn't technically apply to Naomi and Ruth, because they are both women and they can't own property, and so they can't receive the property back, and there are no males in the family to sell this property and or to receive it in the future. So we had two mandated social safety net laws in Jewish culture, but unfortunately, neither of them applied to either Ruth or Naomi's situation. But last week, we saw Ruth get a little creative, because it appears that she understands these laws and she does something that no one else has done before. Ruth convinces Boaz to look beyond the technicalities, the letter of the law, which obviously does not apply to her and Naomi, and she asks him to embrace the spirit of both of those laws. She puts both of these laws together, which had nothing to do with one another. She puts them both together and she applies them to her situation and also to Boaz himself, asking him to be both the lever and the goel, even though he technically was neither. And this, we saw last week, was Ruth as a lawyer, interpreting Jewish law in a way it had never been used before. And you think there's no way this will work. You're asking Boaz to take on all this responsibility that is not legally his. He doesn't have to do any of this. And yet the shock in the story last week is that Boaz actually agrees to it. He's impressed with Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and to Yahweh, and he says that he will go along with this interpretation of Jewish law to be both the lever and the go well. But right at the end of our story last week, at the end of chapter 3, we discover Boaz tells Ruth that there is actually another relative who is closer to Naomi, who has first rights to purchase the land ahead of him, Boaz. And so the whole chapter ends with this cliffhanger of what will happen next. Who is going to save the day? Will anyone save the day? And so we start chapter 4 with Ruth no longer on the scene, Ruth no longer as a lawyer, but now Boaz himself has turned into the lawyer. And it turns out he's every bit as good as being a lawyer as Ruth herself is. And as we get to chapter 4, what I want you to see here is there's some changes that begin to happen. And the first thing we notice is that the point of view changes in chapter 4. We're about to read a section of it, but I want you to notice it's important to realize as we start this chapter that the point of view has changed. Now, most of the story is told through the eyes of the female lead characters. Boaz is an important character, but I guess we would say that the two main characters of the story are really Naomi and Ruth. The female characters are the main characters in this story, and everything seems to be told really from their perspective. But Ruth has said her final words in the end of chapter 3. And now, as we get to chapter 4, we enter again into the world of men, into this patriarchal society. And we are going to see this council of men, of elders, in the city who gets together and they control all the rules. And so as we start chapter 4, what we realize here is that the fate of Naomi and Ruth depends completely on what the men decide. Now, as we say at the very beginning of this series, the book isn't advocating that men should have this role. It's simply reflecting the reality of that in this story, right? It's not prescribing it, it's just describing how the situation exists. In fact, I think as we've been going through this story, we've even been noticing that it's mostly been criticizing this patriarchal view of society. But as we step back into chapter 4 here, as we step into it, you need to realize that the point of view has changed. Now, something else has changed here as we start chapter 4 too, and that is the setting, okay? The setting for chapter 4 changes from chapter 3. The curtain closes on that threshing floor. Remember the sexual tension of the threshing floor? The curtain closes there. You can imagine the band playing a little bit, the music, and then the curtain reopens here at the city gates. And so Ruth 4 verse 1 says, "Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat down there." Now, this is actually a really important change of scenery, okay? The threshing floor might be where Boaz is handling all of his harvest business. It might be the intimate moment where Ruth and Boaz get together. But the city gate is a much more formal setting where important business takes place. Carolyn Custis James, she explains it this way. In ancient times, the city gate was not only the point of entry into town, which of course it was, but it was the heart of the community. The gate was the seat of government and the site of important business transactions, a platform for local dignitaries, a pulpit for prophetic messages, and the hub of local gossip for the entire village. All right, the city gate here is sort of a big deal. It is a formal setting. This is the setting of a formal legal place. This isn't Boaz's field. This isn't his threshing floor. Things are now taking a very formal, court-like tone. So when we get to the city gate, you should picture in your head like sort of a courtroom where important business is taking place. And we're going to go to court now with this new crazy legal interpretation that Ruth has come up with, and Boaz is going to champion it and be its attorney. Now, something else changes here in chapter 4, and that is that we get to meet some new characters. Now, we're going to see Boaz. We've seen plenty of him previously, but we're now also going to meet some other characters. Ruth 4, verse 1, meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat down there just as the guardian redeemer he had mentioned came along. Boaz said, "Come over here, my friend, and sit down." So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, "Sit here." And they did so. All right, so Boaz here, he gets to the city gate, this kind of important place of business, this courtroom, so to speak, right? And he calls a meeting. And it's here that we get to meet some new characters in the story. He grabs the nearest relative of Naomi, right, and the 10 elders. And it sort of illustrates how much clout Boaz has, because initially he gathers together these 10 elders and he says, "Sit here," and they do so, right? I mean, he's got to make a legal decision here. He needs to have some elders there as witnesses to kind of back up what he's saying. And so he gathers together these 10 elders. And it appears that he does so very quickly. He tells them to sit down and they follow his orders. And, we all kind of know people like that. People with some clout, people with some pull, who know people, right? And maybe for some of us, it's like, man, I don't even know how to change something in my city. I don't even know how to get things done. But there's some people we know who just have all the right strings. They've got all the right clout, and I guess some sort of reputation that they can just get things together pretty easy. It's always who you know, isn't it? And that is Boaz here. He gets the 10 elders together, tells them to sit down, and they do it. But we also meet another new character. We don't know any of the names of the 10 elders, but we need another character. And this is the nearest relative that Boaz mentioned back in chapter 3, right? We had this old cliffhanger. What are we going to do? Because there's another relative who is closer in line to acquiring the land than I am, Boaz says. And so here we meet this nearest relative. He goes to the city gate, and who happens to be there but this nearest relative, the true Goel that Boaz mentioned earlier. But interestingly, we don't actually catch his name either. The author omits his name. Now, almost every scholar thinks that this is completely intentional, that this man's name is never mentioned. And in our NIV text here on the screen, you can see he calls him my friend. "Come over here, my friend." And that is an interesting way to translate this Hebrew phrase here, this Hebrew words or two words here that Boaz uses to describe this character, because the actual Hebrew words are Poloni Almoni. Okay, kind of sounds like spumoni. You ever gone to, what is it, the old spaghetti factory? At the end of dessert or end of dinner, they bring you out a little thing of spumoni, right? This isn't spumoni, it's Poloni Almoni. And it's clearly a rhyming parody, right? It's not a real name. It's like in English we might say something like Joe Schmo. That's basically what the author is doing here. "Come over here, Joe Schmo." It's not his real name. It's sort of a parody. It's sort of maybe almost demeaning. It's in fact, one translation just says, "Come here, so-and-so." And that's the idea, like Mr. No Name here. Now, obviously, Boaz knows this relative, and we can be pretty confident in the fact that he must know his real name. And so it seems like the author of the story here, this narrator, is actually adding this Poloni Almoni Joe Schmo language, this parody name, for the sake of those of us in the audience reading it as a hint of what is to come. Because this unnamed person, this Poloni Almoni, once he refuses to help Ruth, he becomes anonymous. He drops out of history. You see, as the Goel, it would be his responsibility here, at least as Boaz is putting these things together and arguing. Somebody needs to take care of the line of Naomi, of Elimelech. Somebody needs to step in and make sure that their family name is not wiped out from history. And this man refuses to take on that role. He will not help Elimelech's name to not be forgotten. And so his name is forgotten. And he is only remembered as Joe Schmo, Poloni Almoni. You get it? But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. Okay, so we get to meet some new characters, but something else happens in chapter 4, and that is a change of legal expectations. Because Boaz here has now got Poloni Almoni Joe Schmo and has the 10 elders gathered together, and he's going to start to present his legal case. And he starts it on rather unusual, perhaps shaky ground. He is going to insert some new legal expectations that aren't normal, aren't expected, and probably takes the elders and Poloni Almoni by surprise. And the first one has to do with the ownership of some land. Ruth 4, verse 3, then he said to the guardian redeemer, Poloni Almoni, Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you, and I am next in line. Wow. Now, do you catch that there in verse 3? I mean, peek at that again there. It says, Naomi is selling a piece of land. Now, this is sort of new information, right? I mean, up until this point in the story, we've seen Naomi as poor and empty. We've seen them gleaning in some other field because they don't have anything of their own. But now all of a sudden, Boaz is saying, hey, she has a field, that she has some land, some property that she's trying to sell. And up until this point, we haven't heard anything about Naomi owning property. In fact, the question is, when did women here start being able to even own property? Because as we've already discussed in the ancient world here, that really wasn't a thing. So what in the world is going on here? Why didn't she just sell this piece of land before? Well, the easiest explanation is that Boaz is actually giving Naomi powers that she shouldn't really have in this context. He's sort of changing the rules. You see, normally a landowner in distress must sell their property. But it's a male, right? That would be Elimelech, her dead husband. But if the man dies, then it's the responsibility of the son because it passes on to him. But in this case, not one, but both sons have died. And since all the males are dead, there's really no one to sell the land. But Boaz says that Naomi is selling it. And this is a legal twist. This is something unexpected. This is very unusual. This is unprecedented. Boaz is embracing the spirit of the law and giving Naomi, assuming that she has these rights that in the context of this patriarchal society, she does not have. Wow. I mean, Boaz here is fully on board with Ruth's plan, and you wonder, how fast is he having to talk to push this through? But notice, as we read the text, nobody questions it. Nobody questions Boaz's new twist on the law here. I mean, obviously, Boaz is clearly respected. There's a lot of power in having people with privilege using that privilege on behalf of those who don't have privilege, isn't there? I mean, Boaz here, he has this clout and this reputation, and so he is able to push some things through here that Naomi herself could not do on her own. Boaz is the ultimate ally. In fact, he's more than an ally. He is a co-conspirator of love. But it's not just that Boaz has clout. This unusual legal idea probably doesn't go unnoticed by Poloni Almoni, right? He must notice, like, wait a second, Naomi's selling a piece of property? How does that work exactly? But actually, it doesn't really matter to him, does it? Because there's no heirs of Naomi. There are no sons. She's too old to have kids. So the land will be his, no matter what Boaz is trying to do here with his legal twist. He won't, Poloni Almoni won't have to return this land later because there's no heirs to return it to. And so, of course, it may not matter much to him at this point. This is just a good land deal, and he is going to do it. And that's what he says in verse 4, I will redeem it. Well, of course he will. Poloni Almoni Joe Schmo is eager to buy this land. And why wouldn't he be? This is a great deal for him. I mean, if he gets this land, he stands to probably double his own land and wealth. Remember, each family had an allotment of land. And so if you are going to then purchase another plot of land, you're going to basically double your own holdings. And normally, under the law of the Goel, you would have to purchase this, and then at some point, depending on how close you are to the Jubilee, it could be very soon, you would have to actually return it to the original family in the year of Jubilee, free of charge. So you'd pay out all this money, and then you would lose it. But in this case, all the males are dead, and Naomi is too old to have any more kids. So he's looking at it and thinking, man, this land, I'm going to have to pay for it up front quite a bit, but I get to keep it. It will stay with me, and he will significantly increase his wealth after this. I mean, it is a no-brainer, right? I will redeem it. I mean, it's an easy call if you're Ploni Almoni. That is, until Boaz starts dropping some further stipulations, right? Because once again here, Boaz is going to change the legal expectations and add a few stipulations here to the purchase of this land. Verse 5. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. Okay, well, there's a twist here. Ploni Almoni, Joe Schmo, has agreed to buy the land because it's a great land deal. But Boaz, like a good attorney here, drops in but by the way, there's something that comes along with this land. And it's pretty interesting because there's a missing word here in English. In Hebrew, there's this strange word that's really kind of impossible to translate into English. It's really a word that just sounds like clearing your throat. And it happens right after the word Naomi. So on the day that you buy the land from Naomi, it's a word that kind of sounds like ahem, like you're clearing your throat, right? It's a clear pause here. It's a oh, by the way, right? And that's actually preserved in the Hebrew, right? It's an untranslatable word, but it's the sound of clearing your throat. Well, actually, by the way, there's another stipulation here. If you buy the land, there's also the matter of Ruth the Moabitess and her descendants. Now, this is actually a huge legal twist because in Ploni Almoni's mind, the only woman of concern here is Naomi. When he is thinking about this deal here, he's thinking, well, I might have to marry Naomi, but she's too old to get married, so it won't really matter. She won't have any heirs. I might have to take care of her, but that's not really a big deal. But now here, Boaz is adding Ruth into the equation. He is extending the family line of Elimelech, not to Naomi, but to Ruth, this foreigner who was married to one of his sons. And so he's saying, if you buy this land, you actually have to marry not Naomi, but Ruth, which means she needs to have the chance to have a son, an heir, who will inherit all the land back. Now, this is another huge stretch of the law, because as we've already stated here, this isn't exactly how inheritance is supposed to work. This isn't the letter of the law. It's sort of violating technically the law, but it is the spirit of the law. And Boaz is embracing the spirit of the law. See, Ruth, if we're going to extend this onto Ruth, that complicates this whole situation quite a bit. Now, verse 5 is actually a kind of an interesting verse. It's the most ambiguous verse in all of the book of Ruth because, in part, it can mean several things because there are three textual variants, all right? We got three variants here. No, not that kind of variance. I know we're all gun shy when we say the word variance, right? We think another wave of the pandemic is coming, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about textual variants, okay? Which means that there are three ways of reading this verse chapter 4, verse 5. And the reason that happens is because as the Bible has been copied down over years, scribes would hand copy it, and some scribes wrote down one word and another scribe wrote down another word. And there are these little textual discrepancies within the Bible. Most of them don't really amount to much, but this is kind of an interesting one right here because there are three variants that are preserved in the copies of the text down through the years. And let me just show you the options here. First, it appears that it has to do mostly here with the second part of the phrase. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire. There's a textual variant that says, I also acquire. And then there's another textual variant that doesn't address either of that, but moves Ruth the Moabite, moves that up to lining it up with Naomi here and saying that you're going to buy the land from Naomi and Ruth, making her a part of the ownership of the land. And so notice here the couple options we have. In option one, Boaz says, on the day you buy the land, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, which means if you buy the land, you also get Ruth, you become the lever, and the land, you need to get her pregnant with a son, and the land will one day go to her son. Option two here is that Boaz said, on the day you buy the land from Naomi, I also acquire Ruth the Moabite. In other words, if you buy the land, I get Ruth as a wife, I become the lever, I will help her produce an heir, and one day her son will get the land back. Option three, you on that day, you buy the land from Naomi and Ruth. She is a co-owner of the land with Naomi. She's an independent agent herself with the ability to sell land, and one day she will get pregnant, and because she is the owner of the land, however she gets pregnant, her son will get the land back. And you say, okay, well, those are three great options, but which one is it? And the truth is, we don't really know. Probably those who preserved the Hebrew text saw some value in each interpretation, and so in this very complicated word structure and in these variants, they preserve them all. But the essence, no matter how you want to read it, is the same. You want the land? Ruth is part of the deal. And when she has a son, the land will be returned to her family. Now, if you're Poloni Almoni, this is way riskier. Okay, because when you're thinking only Naomi's involved, well, she's too old to have kids, right? So there's no problem there. I'll just take care of her. She can live in the mother-in-law apartment and they'll never have to deal with her and I'll get all this land. But this complicates something, right? Because Ruth here could still potentially have kids. Now, Poloni Almoni knows that Ruth has been unable to have a child to this point. It's been 10 years and she wasn't able to produce an heir. So she might be barren, and that would be good, but what if she does get pregnant? I mean, if she does get pregnant and has a son, he'll spend half of what he has right now buying this piece of land, and he'll ultimately lose it all and not be able to pass it on to his own heirs. He'll ultimately lose it all and have to give it to her heirs, which means he will have decreased his own wealth by half. He'll lose half his estate, and it is way too risky for him. So he responds, and verse 6, at this the guardian redeemer said, then I cannot redeem it, because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it. Wow. Poloni Almoni, he can't buy the land. He won't buy the land. It's too big of a risk. Now, before you condemn Poloni Almoni Joe Schmo here for not taking this deal, I mean, the text never actually condemns him. The text actually presents Poloni Almoni, Joe Schmo here, not in the greatest light, right? I mean, doesn't even give him a name, but it really presents him a lot like the comparison between Orpah and Ruth. You remember that scene? Back on the road from Moab to Bethlehem, Naomi tells both of her daughter-in-laws to go home. Orpah and Ruth, go home to your own families. It's better for you there. And you remember, Orpah chooses to go home, and the text never condemns her for it, even though Ruth chooses to stay with Naomi. You see, the reality was what Orpah chose to do was following her mother-in-law's direction, And also, it was the most sensible thing to do. And the comparison isn't that one loves the mother more than the other. The comparison is that one did the sensible thing and the other one did the risky thing out of love. And that is the comparison here too. Poloni Almoni, he's not listed as immoral here. It's just that he's done the sensible thing, the prudent thing. And it is compared here to the risky thing that Boaz is going to do. You see, because Boaz is going to do the exact risk that Poloni Almoni has turned down. He is going to be willing to risk half of his personal estate in order to help Ruth and Naomi. And why would a person do that? Well, for love. Maybe not romantic love in this case, although there might be some of that there. But this is about something deeper, a deeper kind of love, a sacrificial, loyal, steadfast, covenant type of love. The type of love that God shows for his people, the same word. That is what Boaz is infused with. And because he believes in the steadfast, sacrificial, loyal love of God, it changes how he sees the whole world. And he's willing to risk things for the sake of that love. Now, that's really what this story wants to do to you and to me. To open our eyes to the power of love. Or maybe more appropriately, our ears. You see, because I forgot to mention something to you earlier when Boaz first addresses Poloni Almoni in Ruth 4, verse 4. You remember when he first addresses him there at the city gate, he says, I thought I should bring the matter to your attention. But the Hebrew words there, that phrase, actually is the phrase, I thought I should uncover your ear. I will uncover your ear. And it is a phrase that means the speaker will now disclose some information that is surprising. The idea is that your ears have been covered, or maybe you've had your fingers stuck in your ear, and you've missed something critical that I will now reveal to you. In fact, I was thinking about this because yesterday I was running, and I had my AirPods in, and I'm running along, and a biker came up on my left, and I think he was yelling like, I'm on your left, but I didn't hear him, right? Because I had these AirPods in my ear. And then he passed me, and it just shocked me, like I almost fell over because I didn't realize that he was there. I needed my ears uncovered. And sometimes when someone uncovers your ear, it surprises you. It makes you think. And I think in a way, this phrase, I will uncover your ear, is a key phrase for the entire story of Ruth. Because this story of Ruth, like a good Flannery O'Connor story, is attempting to uncover our ears. That perhaps there are things about life, or there are people in life that we have missed because we've had our AirPods in. We've had our ears covered. We've missed what's going on around us. And this story, through some very creative storytelling, wants to uncover your ear to the things that you haven't heard and haven't seen. In other words, this story wants to challenge how you think. It wants to make you ask questions that perhaps you've never asked before. And that's its true value. And we need it. This story challenges us in quite a few ways, doesn't it? It's seeking to uncover our ears about multiple matters. One, it's seeking to uncover our ears about the patriarchy. This story takes place in a time where males have all the rights and the privileges and women have none. And this story is not approving of that situation. In fact, it appears to be critiquing it. It's one of the largest critiques of the patriarchy in the entire Bible. But even here in this final chapter, as we are transported into a setting where women are not allowed, where all the decisions are being made, but their voices aren't represented there, we see Boaz challenging this patriarchal attitude by inserting the names of both Naomi and Ruth, giving them rights as women that they don't naturally have in society. And perhaps we need to have our ears uncovered about these issues today. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that these elders and Poloni Almoni sitting around the city gates don't recognize what Boaz is doing here. He is imbuing these women with rights that they don't naturally have. It is as though he is uncovering their ears and revealing to them that something needs to be done in order to take care of these people who have no voice. And perhaps we need our ears uncovered about the same things. Still in many faith communities and churches today, there is a patriarchal structure that exists. Men can do things in many faith communities today, and women can't. Even though the Bible contains all sorts of stories of female leaders and judges in Israel, female prophets, female preachers, female apostles, female church planters, and perhaps even female authors of certain parts of Scripture. And it's well past time that the church has its ears uncovered about women's roles in its community. There's another thing that this story is trying to uncover our ears about, and it appears to be about income inequality and how we treat and look out for those in our culture who are the have-nots. You see, what's so striking about this story is we come into contact with two Hebrew laws that are strangely progressive. You say, how is a law about your brother marrying your widow and getting her pregnant progressive? Well, it's actually made these two laws, the lever and the goel, they're more progressive in a certain way than any laws in our own culture. We have two laws here, the lever and the goel, that seek to limit how much one person or family can acquire and then redistribute that wealth back over time to those who don't have much. I mean, the whole year of Jubilee cancels all debts, returns property to people who had to sell it off. I mean, it is this mandated redistribution of wealth. And that's a really progressive law that probably is unmatched by anything we have today. And it's fascinating because the Old Testament seems to understand that a gap between those who have, that are with, and those who are without assets grows over time, and eventually it becomes unjust. And justice and righteousness demands that society put limits on that as best it can, that seeks to mitigate that. And here, even the stated laws don't fully help in this specific situation. So the appeal of the story is to even go beyond what the laws here in the Old Testament have to address the intent or the spirit of the law to help those who are poor. And wow, that is very challenging to our modern American capitalist ears. Another area where we perhaps need our ears uncovered is about the inclusion of the outsider. Can't read the story of Ruth and not talk about immigrants, foreigners, refugees, of those poor enough to be on welfare. People on the margins. And this story uncovers our ears to the hurt and the pain of their realities. Often these people exist on the margins, hidden away from our daily life, but this story puts them front and center. And there's a lot here that challenges our modern American ears there too. How do we think of immigrants? What is our responsibility to them? Does it go beyond whatever the letter of our law says? I mean, these are big questions. And I'm not going to answer them all, but the story demands that we ask these questions. Really, one of the most important things this story does is uncover our ears about what it means to be an ally. Ruth is the true hero of this story, but Boaz is her ally. He takes up her cause. He's willing to be led by her, to be taught by her, to see her for who she is, to trust what she needs, and to be led by her. But then he's willing to take up her cause and to leverage his position to make her case, and he's even willing to pay a price, maybe even up to half his estate, to help her. Boaz, as we mentioned last week, is probably already married with kids. And like Poloni Almoni, he has sons to think about too. He has his own heirs to think about. But he is willing to pay the cost that Poloni Almoni is not in order to help Naomi and Ruth. And this is what it means to truly be an ally. To leverage your position and be willing to give up some of what you have to promote the cause of another. And wow, there's a lot there that challenges our comfortable, modern, take care of me and mine Western ears. You get it? This isn't just a story. This is a story trying to get us to take the fingers out of our ears and hear some things that are difficult to hear. You say, dang, that's a lot. And that's a little uncomfortable. I think I like the romance storytelling better. Yeah, I get it. It's easier. It is. But that might be what is most surprising. That we expect these stories in the Bible to be easy and comfortable. That might be what is most surprising, is that we are surprised when we're surprised. How can those of us who follow Jesus be surprised that God wants to challenge us in these areas? It's surprising that we expect not to be shaken and surprised by God calling us to rethink how we see life and the people around us, particularly the poor and the vulnerable. Because we know, because God has said it over and over, that God himself cares for the poor and the vulnerable, the outsider, the widow, the foreigner. More than we can possibly imagine. And yet it still surprises us when he wants to challenge us and uncover our ears to care about them more too. We need our ears uncovered. We need them uncovered. We need to be challenged. We don't know. Maybe we don't know all the answers today, but we need to be challenged and ask the questions. Because that day in Israel, the leaders of the city had their ears uncovered. And the question is, will we allow the story of Ruth to do the same for us? I think that's a good place to stop today. With a question. After all, that's what the story wants to do. Question us. Will we be comfortable, satisfied, and safe? Or will we have our ears uncovered and embrace God's type of love? That's what Jesus did. He was willing to give up his comforts, to become one of us, to spend his life for us out of love. And he's inviting us, if we'll uncover our ears, to join him in the same conspiracy of love. Jesus, we want to thank you today that you mess with us, I guess. That you don't let us stay comfortable and safe. That we admit we do get comfortable and we feel safe and we miss things going on around us, like we've got our fingers stuck in our ear or our eyes shut. And thank you that when we come and meet with you, that you seek to shake us out of that you try to open our eyes to uncover our ears. We pray that we would be people that are willing to allow you to uncover our ears to help us to see what we just often miss. We pray that we would love people the way that you love people. We pray that we'd stop being worried about what it might mean to give up and to sacrifice things for others, and trust that we can do that because you have loved us so lavishly in that way. God, as we go to the communion this morning, we remember that you have loved us with reckless abandon, that you've done it despite the risk. You even beyond the risk, you knew it was a certainty, really, God, that you would pay an ultimate price, and you were still willing to do it. And we pray that as grateful for that as we are, as thankful for as we are, as we want to thank you so much for it, that it would inspire us also to allow you to live that same type of love through us in our lives. We thank you, Jesus. We love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, let's go to communion here, and then we'll come back with a few announcements as we wrap up.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. Sing that again. I love you, Lord. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. Yeah, yeah. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. In my life laid down, surrender now. I'll give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after running after me. With my life laid down, surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. You are. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. And I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
Amen. The goodness of God, man, is just so good to celebrate God's goodness towards us and be reminded to spread that goodness to others. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate that. I got a couple announcements for you here. That'd be great. First of all, just a little update. The mask mandate has dropped in Washington State. So in our in-person gatherings, obviously when you're online, it doesn't matter a whole lot. You don't have to wear a mask ever when you're watching online. But in person, we've just been following the school that we meet in and their requirements, and so they've obviously relaxed their mask mandates as well. And so in our in-person gatherings, you're welcome to wear a mask. I know some of us will continue to wear masks, at least for portions of the service and things. And so if you want to continue to wear a mask, you're perfectly welcome to do that. But we're not required to do so anymore. And so if that helps, there you go. That's the information that way. Giving, if you'd like to give, man, we could really use your financial support. And so if anything you're finding beneficial out of these videos that we're putting together, we actually kind of do this live stream separate from our in-person thing. We just think it's kind of nicer to be closer on screen and make something specifically for those of you who are online. And if you get anything out of that and you want to contribute, I know it's hard because you're not around people, the rest of the community all the time if you're, remote or something. And so if you want to participate in what we're doing in kind of an easy way, I guess, financially, you can give. You can go to our website at findpathways.com/donate, and you can make a one-time gift or a recurring gift there. And that might just be an easy way sometimes to support what we're doing from afar, because there's a whole lot of things about the Bible and the text that we're learning that a lot of people don't know. And by supporting what we're doing here, you're helping us to kind of broadcast a wider net. And there's a lot of people who just haven't found a church that they really connect with because they're not willing to address a lot of things. And so we're trying to be that for specific groups of people. So anyway, if you want to help with that, you can do that. A couple other things that are coming up. Next week is Comfort Casserole Sunday. So once a month, we're trying to get together and eat together. So next week, we're going to do that in our in-person gathering. We're going to circle up the chairs. And we're going to have a discussion again. We're going to discuss some of the things that we've been talking about in Ruth, because when I'm talking, right, I'm not really taking a lot of questions. And so we want to have a chance to kind of push back on some things, discuss some things, disagree about some things, and learn how to practice doing that well and in a healthy way. And so we're going to do that. And then afterwards, we're going to eat some casseroles. And I mean, what would be more appropriate for a church potluck than casseroles? So if you've got a great comfort casserole, I mean, something that's just, oh man, I got to eat this. It just feels so good to eat it on a cold day. Bring a casserole to share, and we'll have drinks and some other side dish stuff there already that we'll provide. But if you want to bring a casserole, that would be fantastic. And then next week, we'll have our Love Your Neighbor shirts back in stock. We went through them really quick. All the sizes pretty much ran out, and so next Sunday at the Casserole Sunday, we'll have a whole new fresh batch of shirts. And so if you want to come and pick up one of our shirts that goes along with our series here, we'd love to give them to you. They're free. You can just come pick them up. Then also this month we are starting Theology Pub up again. We're going to talk about disagreement in our first get together. We're going to talk about, hey, can we disagree about things and still be friends? And how does that work? What's the value of having diversity in the things that we believe? And is there anything we have to agree on? And those type of things. And so we're actually going to have two different discussions, one in the north and one in the south. The one in the south is at Elliott Bay Pizza in Mill Creek, and it's this Wednesday, March 16th at 7 p.m. You don't need to make a reservation. You just got to show up. So if you want to join us there, that'd be great. The one in the north is in Marysville. It's at Five Rights Brewing in downtown Marysville, and that'll be the following Thursday, not this coming week, but the week after that, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. So kind of wherever you're, whichever date works better for you, or whichever venue, or, kind of wherever you're located that works better. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com, The Theology Pub, and we post all the gathering times together there. So if you want to find out, just take a little screenshot right here, and then you can go to Facebook and like the page there, and you'll get all the updates that way. But we'd love to have you join us. It's kind of a casual time. We just get together, eat some food, have some drinks, and talk about different things. So anyway, if you want to join us, that would be great. Also, if you want to join our email newsletter, you can do that. You can message us on Facebook, give us your name and email address, and say add me to the newsletter. Or my email's on the screen there. You can take a screenshot of this and then email me and say add me to the email, and that way you get a little chance to know what is going on in the life of our community. We'll start some new groups up again soon as well. I mean, things are just kind of opening up. Feels like we're in a good spot right now with the virus and everything, and so it's exciting because we just want to get back to a few normal things in the way that we interact with one another, and so hopefully this will be the time for that. Okay, we're just about done with Ruth. Next week, because we're doing our in-person discussion, we won't have a Ruth sermon. We'll kind of do a revisit of something else, and then we'll get back to it the following week. So that's pretty much it for today. Hope you don't blow away or wash away in all the wind and rain out there, but maybe take a nap, because, losing an hour of sleep kind of sucks. So take a nap this afternoon. That's what Sundays are for. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye.